A dark room lit only by candlelight. A single sheet of white paper lies untouched on a wooden desk. The sound of a faint heartbeat and soft wind fills the silence. Asterisk, asterisk. What if your final words were never spoken because you waited too long to say them? What if your story ended without anyone truly knowing who you were beneath the roles, the routines, the masks? And what if the only person who could write the truth of your life was you, right now, before it's too late? Most people wait. They wait until the final goodbye, when the casket is sealed and the room falls silent. They wait until the stories are over, and the people they loved most can no longer hear the truth. But what if you didn't have to wait? What if the most mindful act of living was to face your mortality while you still have time to change how the story goes? That's what I did. I wrote my own eulogy not because I was dying, but because I was finally ready to live honestly. And as I put pen to paper, I realized something. We don't write eulogies for the dead. We write them to remember how we're supposed to live. Why would anyone write their own eulogy while they're still breathing? It sounds dramatic, maybe even a little dark. But sometimes, the only way to see your life clearly is to ask, if I were gone tomorrow, what would truly remain? I didn't write from fear. I wrote from a quiet ache. An ache to strip away the noise and see myself without performance, without approval, without pretending. I wanted to meet the version of myself that would one day be remembered and ask him, "Are you proud of how we're living now?" So I lit a candle. I sat in silence, and I began to write. Word by word, truth by truth, line by line. In the next part, I'll read the words I wrote exactly as they came. Not polished, not perfect, but honest. Come with me into the stillness where memory and meaning begin to meet. I had just lit the candle and placed the pen on paper, as you saw in the last part. But now came the part I feared most, saying the truth out loud. Not for applause, not for validation, but for presence. So I wrote. And this is what came through. He didn't always get it right. In fact, he often got it painfully wrong. But he kept trying over and over, even when no one was watching, even when the silence screamed louder than any applause. He wasn't the first to speak. He was the one who listened long after everyone else had turned away. He felt deeply, and sometimes too much, especially when feeling less would have been easier. He loved in quiet ways, in the way he remembered small details, in the way he forgave, slowly but completely. And when it came time to let go, he did so with trembling hands and a soft heart. He never shouted his truth, but somehow his silence spoke volumes. He didn't chase greatness. He wasn't obsessed with leaving a legacy. He chased something gentler, something more rare, meaning he made mistakes, real ones, and he carried them. But what's more, he healed others, often invisibly, often without ever knowing. He didn't become a headline. He didn't become a hero. But he became something real. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough. There's something strange about reading your own goodbye, especially when it's not the end yet. It's like standing in the middle of your life and catching a glimpse of yourself, not as you wish to be seen, but as you quietly are. And as I sat there, holding these words, I realized they weren't meant for an audience. They were meant for one person only, the version of me that's been waiting to be seen all along. L. In the next part, I'll share what happened after I finished writing, because the words were only the beginning. What came next was the reckoning. After the words were written and the ink had dried, I sat in stillness, reading everything back. And somewhere between the sentences, something began to shift. This wasn't about death, not really. It was about something much quieter and far more urgent, alignment. It was about noticing the invisible space between the life I'm living and the life I'm meant to live. And that space, that gap, it's not empty. It's where regret begins to form like fog rolling into a quiet field. But it's also where something powerful lives. Choice. Asterisk. Asterisk. That was the moment I saw myself more clearly than ever before. I saw how much of my life had been spent waiting, not for something grand, but for permission. Permission to feel, to rest, to ask for help, to chase what truly matters, to be honest about what no longer does. I was waiting for the perfect moment to say, I'm sorry, waiting to treat my body like it was worthy of kindness, waiting to go after something sacred, not just something safe, waiting to forgive myself not for failing, but for believing I had to be remarkable to deserve peace. But here's what the eulogy whispered back to me. The world doesn't remember your perfection. It remembers your presence. Asterisk, asterisk. The way you made someone feel seen in a passing glance. The way you showed up, even when you were falling apart inside. The way your stillness, your truth, your being left an imprint. L. And so I closed the page not because the story was over, but because something was about to begin. In the next part, I'll open the questions that followed, the quiet echoes that remained long after the writing stopped. After the realization settled in, I was left with one thing: silence. But not the kind that empties, the kind that reveals. And from that silence, questions began to rise, quietly, but unmistakably. What would your eulogy say if you wrote it today? Would it break your heart or bring you peace? Would it sound like someone you admire or someone you barely know? Would you recognize yourself between the lines? Or would it feel like a stranger's life, neatly summarized, beautifully worded, but entirely disconnected from the truth of who you really are? Would it mention your courage not in heroic moments, but in the quiet ways you kept going when no one was watching? Would it speak of your compassion, not in grand gestures, but in how you listened to someone falling apart without interrupting? Would it talk about your silence, how you let it speak for you when words felt hollow? Would it celebrate who you became, or only what you achieved? Too often, we spend our energy trying to impress the world. We collect praise, accolades, and metrics, followers, titles, applause. But how often do we pause to understand ourselves? To sit in that rare stillness and ask not, what do others think of me? But rather, do I truly know who I am when no one's watching? These questions don't need answers right away, but they need space. They need silence. And most of all, they need your presence. So now we arrive here not at the end, but at the beginning of something deeper. You don't have to wait until your story is over to speak the truth that's been waiting inside you. You don't have to wait for pain to bring you to presence. You don't have to lose everything just to finally feel something real. The invitation is now, right here in this breath. Before another moment passes unnoticed, before another day disappears into distraction. Write your eulogy not as a farewell, but as a form of return. Let it be your mirror to reflect the life you're truly living. Let it be your map to guide you back to what matters most. And if you're afraid of what it might say, that's okay. It means you're listening. It means you still have time to rewrite it, not on paper, but in the way you show up tomorrow. Because how we are remembered has never been about perfection, performance, or legacy. It begins, and always has, with the quiet, brave choice to live fully, right now. Asterisk. Asterisk. So here we are, the candle has burned low, the page has been written, and you've heard the eulogy of a life still in motion. But maybe the story that matters most is the one you start writing after this video ends. You don't need a near-death experience to wake up. You don't need applause to live meaningfully. You just need a pause, a breath, a willingness to begin again right where you are. Because life is not made in grand conclusions. It's shaped in the quiet decision to show up fully, honestly, gently, again and again. And if this video held a mirror to something inside you, don't let it go unnoticed. Don't scroll past the whisper your soul just heard. We created Mindful Way Television Asterisk as a space for stories like this. Stories that don't shout, but stay. Stories that breathe. Stories that awaken something deeper. If something stirred within you, please leave us a comment. Let us know what part of this story stayed with you. Your words help us grow and help this message find more hearts. Subscribe to Mindful Way Television Asterisk, where every story is a pause, every pause a reflection, and every reflection a quiet return to what matters most. And if you're ready, join us in the next video, another whisper from the edge, where we continue the journey inward. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here.